we're going to get started here. We've got a nice big group of you in here. We're going to keep everybody muted for just now. Otherwise the audio is going to be horrible. But there's a little chat piece there where you can ask us questions if you need to, and we will do our best to respond to those as we go through. So give me just a second here. So again, please do use that if you've got questions, or it seems like things aren't working properly, and we will take that from there. Just a second here. Okay, so what we're going to do today for sort of the next basically hour or so is we're going to take a little while just to kind of introduce you to Therap and who we are and what we're doing and what our plan is moving forward with the LTSS folks in South Dakota. Again, you will get lots and lots of opportunities over the next few months to come to trainings, both online and in person, and to ask questions and to share opinions and all this. So this really is just sort of an opening gambit to give you a little taste of what's going on, and then we'll take it on. The presentation today is going to be by myself. My name's Justin Brocky, and Tracy Linko, who will be out and visiting you and doing a bunch of training as we go through. Also with us is Shirley Curvin, who's one of our team members with a lot of experience in the LTSS space. I have a few slides to start off with. I will try not to stay in PowerPoint for too long, because PowerPoint presentations are never the most exciting things. And then I'm going to try and jump into the application and give you a little bit of a flavor of what things are going to look like when you start using Therap for real. So a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are web-based software as a service. So that just means that you get to us using your browser. Pretty much as long as you've got access, you're going to be able to get in and do stuff. We've been doing this around the country for best part of 15 years now, and South Dakota was actually one of the first states we got into outside our home state of Connecticut. We started working with the folks at Northern Hills Training Center up in Spearfish very early on. So we've been coming out to South Dakota for a while, and in particular working with your DD folks. And that really is our background is primarily working on the DD side of things, but again, we've touched on aging and LTSS in a number of places, and have been looking to get into that in more depth, and you folks were brave enough, because we're working already with your DD folks, and looked at what we did to say, hey, let's see how we can make one system sort of do both. So as you can see, we've got experience in working all over the country, which has been really useful for us. That gives us a very broad perspective on how supports are working and how trends are going nationally. So we're not just getting tied into one, but yet we've got experience from all over the country in terms of what we do, and we've got support staff who are all over the country. So you're going to get folks coming and working with you from the Midwest, who kind of know how things go out there, and who spend a fair bit of time specifically in South Dakota. We look after all your data for you. We've got lots of technical stuff going on behind the scenes, so that we're available all the time. And so that your data is secure, because it is your data. But we're doing that looking after piece. Again, if you've got particular questions about the security or any of that stuff, we're happy to go into this. But what we really do, what we specialize in, is sharing data between multiple entities. So this is not just, well, the system has been bought by the state and is owned by the state, or it's also, our goal really is to get everybody involved in supporting the people you support in and getting at that data as we go through. It really is what we see as person-centered data. So you'll be in there. The providers will be in there. We even hope that the people you support and potentially their families are going to be getting in there. So that whole idea of having a whole circle of support, all able to see the right data about the right people, is really what our model is based on. And that's going to be particularly the case as we go through and we start talking about electronic visit verification, or EVV, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. But we have, again, a model of care here, and a sort of overall workflow. And really sort of the key bits to this are kind of, there's a budget that you put together. And to us, a budget is just a collection of service auths. So that's something you guys do already, and I'm going to show you how you're going to do them in our system. And then what we call an ISP, you call a care plan. It's just really a list of what are those services you're going to be providing to that person, and what needs to be done to address those needs that have been triggered. And again, then one or more providers are going to be providing that service. And you're going to want them to be able to both document the fact that they've been providing that service, but then they're also going to have to bill against that. They're going to have to do their billing and their documentation and all of that. And these days, again, that's going to involve all their staff, because most of your services that you provide fall under the auspices of electronic visit verification. And then we want all of that to feed back in, so that you're knowing in real time that services are being provided, and there's a real sort of able to sort of measure that quality of care that's going on. So that's that whole sort of thing that's going on. And this is something that we are doing, again, all over the country. And a lot of it is about, here's our plan of care. Everybody ought to be able to see this. Use the case manager. The provider should know what they're supposed to be doing. The individual receiving support should be able to know what's coming through. So you'll hear a lot about us talking about ISPs, and when we say ISP, you can think care plan, and it all sort of fits together. We'll probably be doing some other things. We do a lot of focus on stuff like incident reporting. That's probably gonna happen through us. And there's quite a big push at the moment on the EVV side of things. So we're going to focus on, to start off with, service authorizations and visit verification and the billing that goes with it, because we want to try and get that done in the January timeline that we proposed. But behind that, there's going to be an awful lot of other stuff with the care plans and the billing, and maybe incident reporting and your case notes and all of that stuff as we go through. So I want to make sure that we get to do this. When it comes to folks being out there providing services out in the community, our goal is that a lot of that can be done from somebody's cell phone. Now, there's interesting things about, do you have cell phone coverage everywhere? And what are your providers, and what is the state going to say about what they call bring your own device? Is the device can be provided by the agency, or is our staff going to use their own devices? And again, it's another interesting question, which some folks have looked at and addressed, and other folks have. But again, a lot of this functionality that we are looking at here is works. We have an Android app and an iOS app that can do sort of all of this stuff and more, and will involve people being able to prove that they are actually providing the right service to the right person at the right place at the right time. That really is at the crux of doing EVV. And you know, speaking as somebody whose family receives in-home services, I'm actually really excited about this coming in, and you know, the staff I have coming into my house to work with my daughter haven't actually proved they were there at the right time. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. And again, going to give you a quick little glimpse into what that might look like from a provider perspective. We're also going to get into, you know, a lot of this data is going to give you some great reporting. So when you want to be able to see how are you doing with your supports, and what do they look like across the whole state, we're going to be able to do that. Where one of the big pieces we're looking at is making sure you're able to sort of interact directly with your MMIS and the state accounting system right from Therap. So those interfaces will be in place so that you've got more real-time data right there at your fingertips. That's a little bit of a busy slide, and it may be too small for you. But again, the way that we're doing electronic visit verification really sort of fits right in with everything else that you're doing. The services that the provider is going to schedule for an individual will be those services that you've authorized, so that they're all linked together, and those are going to be the things that the staff then are able to go out and check in, check out, say they were there, and then both the provider will be able to get reports out of that for stuff like payroll and making sure they're appropriately utilizing all the units that you've authorized, and then you're going to be able to get really good reporting and saying, you know, did all these people who I support, did they all receive all of the supports that they were supposed to receive? So going through this at 100 miles an hour so that we can get through it and get through it all in an hour and keep you awake and all that. What I'm going to do now is I am going to move from doing this as a PowerPoint presentation and actually log into our application and give you a sense of what that's going to look like and what that's going to feel like. So just give me a second while I change screens that I'm sharing. Okay, so now you should hopefully see our website, which is www.therapservices.net, and hopefully Tracy will jump in if I'm talking about something that's not up on the screen. And you can come here anytime you like. There's lots of training materials and stuff like that that you can come and take a look at. You can even, lots of webinars you can sign up or look at recorded ones. As we get closer to going live with you guys, we will be posting more information about how things are going to work right here on the South Dakota page. At the moment, the South Dakota page is going to focus more on the DD side of things. We'll have some specific stuff there for you on your side. But again, that'll be a page where you'll be able to get resources specifically for you and what you do within the LTSS division in South Dakota. There'll be resources for you as case managers and associated staff and resources for the providers. But one of the main reasons you'll come here is to log into the system, which I'm going to do right now. So what I'm going to log into is a demonstration account. So this is a real account in that I'm logging into our production system, but it's completely fake data that's in there. We've just made this up over the last little while. It's also sort of made up in the system as the system is today. We've been coming and meeting with a whole bunch of your colleagues, learning about what you do and deciding how we're going to take what you do now, whether you're doing that in Mediware or the mainframe or on paper, and how that's going to translate to doing that in Therap. And obviously, in doing that, there's a bunch of development that we've started working on, and we're going to be doing more on. So what I will show you today is not exactly how things will look when you put them out there and you start using the system hopefully in January. But again, hopefully it's enough to give you sort of a flavor of what that's going to look like and stimulate some discussions. And again, we're happy to get into more meetings and things like that. We're out in peer every month or two for meetings as we push this along. So when you log into Therap, you will have a login name, a password, and you'll have a provider code. And the provider code sort of decides what big account. So you will have a provider code for you as the state of South Dakota that you will always log into. And then you'll have your own login name and password, which of course you won't ever share with anybody else. And you won't ever use anybody else's. But again, and everybody else who uses the system will have their own login again, and somebody who works at a provider will have a different provider code, and maybe somebody works for more than one provider, in which case they'll have two different sets of logins, one for each provider code. So I'm now logged into the system, and I'm in what we call an oversight account. There's a bunch of things that I can do here which allow me not only to do work at a state level, but if I've got the right permissions, I can go and actually have a look at some of the data that's being entered at a provider level as well. So all of that's kind of there for me. When I log in, what I can do is restricted to me. So and it's restricted in two different ways. One of those is a caseload. So I have a caseload, and again, if I'm a case manager, I may have a caseload of just the people that I work with every day, or I may have a caseload which is of a region or the entire, or a few providers, or the entire state. Again, that's up to you guys to decide and assign out. And then I have a thing which we call a super role. And a super role is just a list of capabilities. It says, what am I allowed to do? What modules am I allowed to see? And within that module, am I allowed to put new stuff in, take stuff out, edit stuff, delete stuff, approve stuff? And again, so the privileges you have will be decided by your administration. So probably when you log into Therap, you won't see as much as I'm seeing just now. Because I'm doing a demonstration, I've just given myself basically every privilege there is, because it makes it easier that way to do the demonstration. You'll have a much sort of simpler account with fewer logins. But I want to show you sort of maybe 3 or 4 modules that I think you're going to touch base with. So when people start talking about Therap, you've got a little image you can bring up in your mind as to what that might look like. So one of those things that you're going to do is you're going to put together budgets for people. And again, to us, a budget is a collection of service authorizations, okay? So if I wanted to go in here and create a new budget, and I'm gonna do a new budget for Mr. Allen here. And again, you're always going to see a list of people's names. Again, that list is going to be restricted to those people that you work with, but if you're allowed to work with the whole state, then you may see thousands of people. One of the nice things about lists in Therap is they're really easy to narrow down. So I can start typing into this list, and as I type into it, it filters it down based on any column. So it's real easy for me to get to the people I need to really quickly. Now, click on Charles here. And you can see I've done a little bit of setup here just to kind of keep things moving along. The way our funding thing works just now, and we know you've got rules depending on whether you're a caregiver or on the waiver or state funded as to how much money you're allowed to spend, and we're going to build all that logic in. At the moment, I've just sort of simply given myself a budget of $20,000 to work with. So I'm going to do that. And I've got a start date and an end date for his budget. So I'm going to say his budget runs from July 1st until June 30th. And again, if you see something and you think to yourself, well, that's not the way we do it, don't worry about it for just now. We've probably either already been told that's not the way you do it and we're going to change it, or we're going to sort of learn that as we go along. There is here, let's say I've got a budget of $20,000, but during the year I fall and I break a hip and I need to get some extra money in here. There is a process where you can apply for exception funding for somebody you support. Now, at the moment, we can see that there are no services that have been authorized. So I need to add a service in here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a service. And I can pick from, and you'll see here, it's not every service that we've put in here, but it's a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do Adult Companion on the waiver is the service. I'm going to add here for Charlie. And again, I'm going to go in and see that this is going to run from July 1st till June 30th. And I'm going to give him 240 units. And I'm going to say next. Again, I could put some comments in there. Again, we've got a sort of approval process where if you're somebody that needs to get this approved by a supervisor, you can make that happen. You might want to leave comments for why somebody's getting a particular service, and you can do that. What I'm now going to do when I get the service provider is I'm going to get a list of all the providers who are authorized to provide that service. Again, I'm in a demo account, so there happens just to be one. So provider one, so we'll choose them. And again, now what I'm going to get in your case would be that provider's rate for that service. Some rates are fixed. Some other services may well have variable rates or not. And I know I want to be able to send this authorization out to the provider, so I'm going to click that shareable piece. We at the moment have a way whereby you can allocate those units out evenly across the months of the authorization. We do know that you authorize things weekly, and we're going to make sure that you can both authorize weekly and then budget weekly as things go across. So that's something that we're working on. But just now, we'll just allocate those evenly across the months so that we can start working with them. And I'm going to save that and pop it in, and I can go back to the budget. And this is in here, it's reminding me that we've not sent this authorization out to the providers yet. So I'm going to add one more in just so you can get a sense of how that might work. So I'm going to say this is going to be nursing on the waiver. Okay. And Again, I'm going to put that in for the same period of time, July 1st. Through June 30th. And we'll do 120 units. Again, you can see all this is fairly straightforward and easy to work your way through. You'd obviously have more providers there. You may have multiple rates, or it may be fixed per provider. We'll give you what you're allowed to do. Oh, I made a mistake there. And for some reason I missed the provider. Let's get that there. Again, very, very standard sort of error message. We're going to try and make it so that you can't get anything wrong as you go through. And we'll send that out. So let's say, for example, I have finished allocating out all of that. Then you know, we're basically ready to go, and I can come down to the bottom. I now can submit this budget to be approved. Okay, and again, you may have a scenario where you're allowed to approve your own budgets, or it may have to be somebody else who approves it. And again, that may even depend on certain things within the budget. You know, maybe the budget's got exception funding, and that means it needs to be approved by a supervisor, whereas if it doesn't, you can approve it yourself. And again, there's a whole process you can see, because I'm also an approver, where I could even reject it back to myself, which would be a little weird, but I could technically do that. In general, in Therap, you're only going to see a button if you've got that privilege. So if I wasn't allowed to approve this budget, then I wouldn't see an approve button there. You know, but again, as I said at the beginning, I do have all the roles. You'll notice there's also a printable version of this. So if for some reason I did need to get a paper version of this out, I could do this. Though our goal is that actually what you're going to do in this is you're going to send it to people through Therap. So hang on just a second. So I am going to go ahead and approve this budget. And when I go ahead and approve that budget, what that will also do is, you can see that's sending all those service authorizations out to the provider. Okay, so rather than you having to fill out another document and mail it to them or something like that, that's actually going to show up directly in their account. And I'm going to show you what that would look like in just a second here. So you got a sense, if if providers are ever asking you, what's this going to mean, that you'll be able to say, oh, I saw that, it looked really cool. Hopefully that's what you're going to say anyway. So I'm just going to do this in a different browser so I don't get too confused. So I'm going to come over here and log into a provider account, and of course, I'm going to forget what my password is, but that's okay. We'll try again. Beautiful, second time lucky. So if I was to come over to my to-do list, and again, to-do lists are based on privileges. So I happen to be the person at the provider who's got the role that says, I'm going to get notified about new service authorizations as they come in. Okay, so by doing that, and this is actually telling me that I've got 4 service authorizations coming in, and there's the 2 I just did just now, and we can see we've actually got a couple more that came in before, and if I want to, I can go in and I can look at all the details associated with them, and actually I could do some more work. And if I was ready to set them up so I could bill from them, I'd choose an extra couple of little bits down before, and I would say, yep, I've got that. And the nice thing about it, that'll then let you know that the provider's got the service authorization, and they're all ready to go and start doing what they need to do from that. Okay, so that's you've written some service auths, you've sent them over, the provider's got them. What you've also probably done is written a plan of care. And again, remember, all the provider had to do was come in here and look for this. They can also set up notifications. You know, if they're not in Therap all the time, they could get it so that they get a text message or an email saying, hey, you've got a new service off, you better go and look at it. Or, hey, somebody's just updated the care plan for you, somebody you support. You should go in and you should take a look at that. And what they might do when they do that is they might come in and do a search to see if there are any care plans written for the people they support. And you can see here it's saying there happens to be a care plan for Charlie written by you that's showing up for them in there. And it's saying here, and this is kind of some of the cool stuff. You wrote it in your case management account because you're the case manager, but because they support this person, they're able to see a read-only version of it in here. So what I've done is I wrote a really, really quick care plan, and please don't think that I'm sure you write much nicer, much fuller care plans. I just wanted to give you a sense of A, how that data could be available both to you and to the provider, and B, the sort of things that you might potentially be putting in here. So it's going to know, you know, part of that care plan of care is who's providing what services. So this says that you chose provider one to provide the following services. And then what are the things that you're looking to do? Well, you've gone through your CHAN, you've got all your triggers, and you've probably, based on those, you know, you've established needs that you want the provider to work on in doing those things. And again, this is one of those things that we think might well work for you. We've not gone into a lot of detail yet, but this could be where you say, these are the things that we're going to do because of falls, or to make sure that the meds get right, and things like this. These are some other things that we discussed with Charlie as we were writing up his plan. So we want to make sure that those are communicated out. If there are other things that need to be done, then again we can make sure that everybody is aware of those and can see those. Again, that idea of having documents that you write that you want everybody associated with Charlie to see, you shouldn't have to be mailing or faxing or any of that them all out. They should all just be here in the system and shared as you need them to be shared. So again, based on the fact that you've authorized this provider to go ahead and provide those services, what comes next is that provider needs to do this whole electronic visit verification lock. So what they will do, and I'll go through this really quickly again, just so you've got a sense of what is going on at the other end, is they will put together a little schedule of what's going on during the day for their folks. So here's the people they support, including Charlie. And I could look at this by the people receiving services, or I could look at it by who the staff are. So you can see I've got to be quite busy today, and Tracy's just got one thing on today. Now, you'll notice by looking at the schedule here, these first two shifts, they've been completed. That means that somebody, me in this case, went and checked in and checked out for them. This orange one here, that's saying it was checked in for, but hasn't yet been checked out. And if I was back on the individual list, I can actually see this red, this pinkish one, and that's a slot that doesn't have any staff assigned to it. So you know, I as a provider know, wait a minute, you know, I need to get some staff out there. And you as a case manager, you know, if you're getting a call from the agency saying, hey, what's going on here? This agency's not coming out. You could actually look here and say, well, no wonder nobody's coming out. They didn't schedule somebody, and maybe you've got a bit more information. What you can also do is you'll be able to open up this slot. Okay, and you can see that this was service was supposed to be, you know, provided at East Capitol Avenue and Pier. If for some reason you're not sure where East Capitol Avenue is in Pier, you could actually click on the map, and you know, see that's inside your state capitol building, was where the service was supposed to be provided that day. And then you're actually going to be able to see that, you know, and that was supposed to go on from 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock this morning. But if you come down here, you can see that Justin actually checked in at 12:12 and checked out at 12:12 as well, which wasn't too cool, and was absolutely nowhere near the state capitol in Pier. In fact, where he was at his house in Connecticut. So, you know, see a little map of sunny Connecticut, because that's where I was filling out some test data this morning, getting ready for this presentation. So, but again, you're going to have real-time access to that, as will the provider. And the really nice, one of the things I really like about this is, you know, as you're looking at this and you're sort of looking at your caseload and kind of going through the day and seeing what's happening, you're going to kind of see all those shifts gradually changing from sort of blue, where they've been scheduled, hopefully there aren't too many pink ones, to orange as people check into them, and then green as people have both checked in and checked out. So the reason I'm talking funny is I'm just signing in on my cell phone at the same time. And we even give you a little refresh button up at the side here. So if you wanted to see, you're like, oh, I wonder if they're done yet with Donald up there. And I'm just gonna check out of Donald's on my phone while we talk here. Okay, so that's me checked out. So if I were to refresh, you're actually seeing that in real time. So you're going to see that your people are actually receiving services in real time. And again, you can always check in, and you can see that data right there. And in fact, you can see I started at home and I finished in our office. So again, if I were to open that up, you can actually see I'm sitting in the Therap office doing this presentation at the moment. So you get some real time. Now, not everybody is going to be, you know, using smartphones. We'll also give people the option to check in via regular phone and dial in and do that. But the ideal is having folks do this on a smartphone, because it's quicker, it's easier, it collects more data. They'll also have the ability in the future to actually record much more in the way of details about what was the service they provided and how did the person themselves sort of respond to that service. So A lot of things like that will be able to go on as we go through. And then from a provider's perspective, because if I open up this, this is based on the fact that they're able to schedule their staff for this particular service. Is very much based on that service authorization that you put together and sent out to them. So they are then going to be able to turn around and bill directly for this. And we in the background can generate that claim, send it right either off to the MMIS if it was a waiver service, or off to the state accounting folks if it was a state plan service, or wherever else it needs to go, and they will be able to do that directly just based on the data that's in there. So this is going to make their billing at their end much quicker, much more efficient, much more accurate, because they're going to be billing based on that time that the staff put in. And again, if it was, let's say I come back to this one, and the staff accidentally checked in and checked out at the same time, and you're like, oh, the staff themselves can't change that, but they can talk to their scheduler, and if they're comfortable that actually that should have been changed to 2:12 p.m., let's say, the scheduler is going to be able to go in and make that change, but we're actually going to retain that. So if there's an audit, you would be able to get in here and look at what was sort of the history of this slot, because every slot has what we call an update history, and you're going to see where changes were made and who they were made by, and actually compare one version of the form to another one, and you can see if that's coming across well enough. The 1206 has been scored out, and the 243 has been put, because that's when that change was made, and here's where the time was updated. So there's a real good sense of comfort that you can have in that data, and in the fact it's the right data, and who's made changes to it and when those changes were made. That's probably about what I wanted to do on the provider side of things. Again, there's a lot more stuff that the providers could choose to be doing. So if they're going to want to track some health information about the folks they're working with and other stuff like that, there's all sorts of functionality in there, and we can get to that sort of some other time when we've got some more time to spend on doing some things like that. What we're also going to have is, again, more of the documentation that you might be doing on a person is going to be done in here. So you would be able to come in here, and let me make it a little smaller. And for example, this might be where you would write your case notes. Nice thing about writing case notes, and again, you may look at this and say, wait a minute, that's not the right way that we do case notes. We ask different questions, or we have different formats, but our case note module is a very flexible one, where you get to decide and design the template that you're going to use. We'll do that with your colleagues to make sure that you're collecting exactly the data that you want to. But it's a really easy place to go in. I can see, here's the case notes I've written previously, so I've got a sense of where I'm picking up from. Make that a bit bigger again. And so if I was coming in and writing a case note today, I can do this. I've got this set up so it's just during time and by duration. You might be required to enter a start and end time. Again, that's configurable. You probably have a list of what are effective activities that you can be doing as a case manager. I just put a few things in here. Again, we'll work with your colleagues to make sure these are the right things, and where, if you need to track where you did that stuff, you could certainly do that. You say this was billable, but it wasn't face to face, and I called the agency director, and so I'm going to put them in, and I can attach documents here. And again, we've got lots of places throughout Therap that you can attach documents and put them. We have a module we call document storage. So once you've scanned a document in and it's there about that person, you're going to be able to access that again and again if you need to send it to other people or whatever. And then I can write my note. And it's I think this is a 30,000 character field. So if you're one of those people that likes to write a real essay when you write your case notes, or maybe you called the provider just to say what a great job they were doing, or whatever. And again, you can see you got a little, if you want to bullet things or bold things to make your note easier to read, then you can do that. If you haven't quite finished the note, you can save it as a draft and come back and finish it later. If you have written it, you can click submit, and then you can just confirm, yep, this is what I wanted to do. And now that case note is going to be in there and available to basically anybody who's supposed to have rights to it. Again, we've got this very configurable access system. In general, it's going to be that you and staff are going to be able to see a lot of the provider data, share stuff with the providers. They're going to get some read-only access into the things that you send to them. So you're going to send a plan to them, you're going to send service auths to them. They're probably not going to get to see your case notes and stuff like that. But again, those are the kind of things that we're going to get into as we have conversations and we set everything up. Of course, when we put Charlie in there, we haven't done a lot of setup in this account yet, but we're able to get a lot of demographic information and all of that stuff in there. So if I were to come in and take a quick look here, we'll go in and we'll look at Charlie. This is the sort of data again that you'll have in there, and you'll be able to share with the provider, so they're seeing this, so everybody's looking at the right data. We can also get into things like when you're putting in diagnoses, we like to give you lookup tables for things. So if you're looking up Alzheimer's, again, you'll start typing, we'll give you the right ICD-10 codes to choose from so that you get that right one. If you've got other people, like if you actually know when Charlie was diagnosed, you can put that data in. If you don't, we're not going to force you to. We try not to have too many required fields because we don't want to force you to put something in there that's not the actual data. If we force you to put in social security number and you don't know the social security number, you're going to end up putting in bad data, and we don't want to have bad data. but I'm going to say this is his primary diagnosis. Again, if you knew the doctor who put that in, you could put that in, and you can go in and add in as many other diagnoses as you want as you went along. And again, that style of data entry is fairly typical of how you're going to go in and you're going to enter stuff. We encourage you to put in photographs of the folks that you work with if you've got them. Again, it personalizes things. It's also a really good way of helping make sure you don't write things about the right person. Because if we flash a photograph, you know, wait a minute, that's not Charlie. I must have clicked on the wrong name. You're not going to write something in the wrong record. So again, all of that information in here. You will see as you go through maybe some stuff that you say, wait a minute, that doesn't really pertain to the folks we support because maybe it's used more on the DD side of things, and we'll work out some ways to filter some of that stuff out, and maybe there's additional information that we want to get in for your folks, and we'll be looking to do that as we go along. One of the other pieces that you're going to see and use, and I think sometimes Therap's as much about communication as it is about data entry and data collection, is this send via SCOM. And SCOM it's secure communication. It's a little bit like email, but it stays completely inside Therap. So it allows you to talk with everybody else that you work with, not only at your where you work, but also at all the other providers where you work with people. So if I were to go and compose a note, and I'm going to say this is I'm going to do it about Charlie, so it's an individual care note. And I want to actually send a cross provider. So that means I want to send it to other providers that work with Charlie, not just myself. So I'm going to type Charles' name in here. Can't spell, so I'll go there. And it's about Charlie. So the nice thing about this, couple of nice things about this is, one is it's only going to let me send this note to other people who work with Charlie, okay? And I can either start typing them in if they know who they are, and you can see it's gonna come up with 3 different versions of me because I've been doing this, or I can go to this add people, and it's gonna give me a list of all the folks that work with Charlie in different places, and I could go ahead and maybe send this to all of them. So lots of different ways, and again, the different colors there are reminding me. The blue ones are in my account, and the yellow ones are in other people's accounts. You'll see a lot of this high, medium, low stuff in Therap, because that lets you decide how you want to be notified about something. So you can say, you know what, if it's a high, I want you to send me a text message and tell me I need to log in and look about it quickly. If it's a medium, you can send me an email. If it's a low, you know what, I'll get it the next time I log into Therap. And I'm just going to say, Charlie's doing great. And just so again, real easy way. I can attach other Therap forms. So if I wanted to attach his plan, I could, or an incident report about him, or something like that. Or if I wanted to put in an external file, I could do that. Or I can just send this. And when I do, that's going to go out, and that's going to go to everybody out there who it was sent to. If I look at the sent message, again, I can see that. I can do all the things you'd expect me to do, including look at who's seen it, forward it, print it, get all that stuff that you would expect to be able to do with a regular email. And I even sent it to myself, so there it is, sitting in my inbox. So we've just about, in a real hurry, come to the end of our hour together. Hopefully, I've given you a little flavor of what's to come, and you know, it's always difficult when you get this many people on the phone because you can't really be conversational. But we will be out in South Dakota often over the next few months, so I expect to meet some, if not all of you. We will be doing lots of training sessions, both in person and over the web. But I would expect that you will all get at least one in person, if not more, training sessions, and we will be going out and visiting with all your providers and training them and doing all that. So there is lots more to come. I would encourage you though, if you do have questions just now, probably the best way is to sort of funnel them up through your supervisors so they all come to us in a reasonably organized manner. As we get further forward, so we actually know what some of the answers are, then we'll introduce you to our live help folks and things like that, and the support tools we'll have out there for you so you can learn a lot more. But at the moment, you're probably better funneling them sort of through your supervisory channels. With that, again, we are very excited about having the opportunity to work with you guys. I think in many ways we want to learn from you more than have you learn from us. We're gonna teach you how to use Therap, and you're gonna teach us how to make it really work really well for folks in the LTSS services in South Dakota. And our goal with that is to change the world. And take what we do in South Dakota and make that work for everybody else in the country, and even some folks outside the country. So again, thank you very much for bearing with us this afternoon. I do hope this was useful, and we will look forward to speaking to you again, either online or in person at some time in the future. You folks have a tremendous rest of your day. Thank you again very much.